salary history bands. I don't think a lot of people know what this is, but this is an up and coming thing as well.
It definitely is, and it's tied back to pay equity as well. And basically just says that you are not allowed to ask the candidate you are interviewing for a job what their pay history was. And the theory here is that if I make 80 cents to the dollar that you make, Mike, which is what statistics will say, that I make 20% less than you if we have the same exact background and the same exact job, that if and let me just use those numbers, let's say I was making 80,000 and you were making 100,000. When you go to get the next job and I go to get the next job, you'll get 120 and I'll get 100, and I'll never catch up to you, right? So listen, when this first came out, it came out first in New York and California, but it's now in 26 states. You know, my employers were calling me and going, "What? Mary, no way. I can't, on an interview, I can't ask what they were making." And I said, honestly, why does it matter what they were making? You know what you're going to pay, and let's go back to pay transparency, where you should know what you would pay for this position with this experience that you're looking for, right? and this background, you should know what you're paying. So if they were underpaid in their prior job, why does that matter? Are you really going to pay, if the job pays 100,000, but the person you're interviewing who is stellar and perfect for the job was only making 70 at their last job, are you really going to only give them 80? I don't think so, because now, you know, no matter who it is, it does create pay inequity, right? So, you know, you really want to try to make sure that you're on top of this, you know, making sure your managers are not asking what their last salary was. And since it's in 26 states, my advice when I'm doing interview training is do not ask that question. The manager shouldn't be asking that question anyway, right? Because usually HR is making the offer. But employees, it becomes, you know, what are you going to look up all 26 states every time you interview somebody if you're interviewing across, you know, different states? So I'd be careful about that. It's important.
I mean, we get the impulse that how it might feel reasonable, right? So for the 3 or 5 or whatever decades you've been in business, and you know, you want to treat people fairly, you want to give them a career path, and so you give them, you know, 3 to 5% raises, and the high performers get up to 10% raises, and so you kind of got this model that's been working for you for a long time. But to your example, there are groups of people that can never catch up if everybody's playing in that same race. I've got a CEO friend. He's got a great business on his hands, tech business. But I think he's a brilliant employment strategist. Now, this doesn't work for all jobs. Some people, geography matters if you're in retail and serving local customers. But as he hires engineers, this is how much he pays, and it's less than you would make market rate in San Francisco. But you are in the 1% richest people in the world in Mumbai, right? And so he all he cares about is the best talent across the world. So he hires engineers. It doesn't matter where you are. So could he pay less to get good engineers in different parts of the world? Well, of course he could. But he doesn't see a worldwide workforce as offshoring and labor arbitrage. He sees it as he's opening himself up to the biggest talent pool possible, and this is how much I'm willing to pay to hire an engineer, because this is how it fits into my economic model. And if I can help some woman become the richest person in her town because she's an engineer that works for me, well, I'm just doing the world good, and she's never going to leave me. and she's going to be so dedicated to me, and I'm getting a huge win because I'm getting one of the best engineers literally in the world, right? Can I compete in Silicon Valley? Hell no. Can I compete in New York, Dallas, Chicago? Probably not. But I'm still getting the best talent to make me the most successful company in the world. I think that's probably the way we should be thinking about what is the job worth. Open yourself up to the biggest talent pool possible, and you win, and the employer wins.
Right.
Mary, I think we're going to call it a stopping point. So we're going to pick this up. So we talked about the 5 major trends here in some very specific legislation that passed in 2022. So pay transparency, leave laws, FLSA updates around independent contractors, fair chance laws, and salary history bans. I think you've identified 12 topics for 2023 that I think we're going to take over a 2-part series to unpack, because there's a whole lot to go through that employers have to know. And this is a lot of stuff, but the ignorance of the law is no excuse. You got to comply with the law. The world is changing whether you like it or not. So we're gonna unpack all that information, and I think our next 2 shows we're going to split that off of those 12 topics into 6 each, something like that. But I think today was a great recap of the major legislative changes that happened in 2022. Anything you want to add to, quote unquote, put a bow on it?
Yeah, I think the things you have to think about as employers is, what do I do with this information, right? So as I said, many of these regulations are going to have a posting requirement. You're going to have to update your handbook. You're going to have to educate your managers and inform your staff if you haven't already enacted these laws. So that's what we're working on with employers. And like I said, some of these things you might have to take a step back and do a couple of things like salary benchmarking and salary grades and things like that to prepare for these. So take this information and act upon it.